Carl here from Metal Wani, and it's been too long since I've had the pleasure of enjoying the company of the gentleman here with me today. Not only is he one of the finest guitarists in the world, he is also nothing short of a genuine pleasure to hang out with. It is, of course, none other than JOHN Petrucci himself. John, thank you so much for your time, man. It's great to hang out with you again. John, you there, man?
Hello? I can hear you.
Okay.
I'm talking. I'm talking, but for some reason you're not hearing me.
That's strange, man. I'll try to do the intro again and see if we can. I'll get on with the questions, and sure, hopefully it all comes together. I can edit it afterwards. So,
okay, cool.
I'll do my best, man. So yeah, man, I'm stoked to be here talking with you today about your new solo album, Terminal Velocity, which will be available digitally on August 28th and physically come October 30th. And John, it is such a great, fun, and incredibly positive sounding album. Like, it's got pop next to punk, next to Latin shuffle and blues. There's just a lot of fun, uplifting vibes on this record. Would that be a fair assessment just straight off the bat, do you think?
Well, thank you so much. I mean, that's a great assessment of it. I tried to make the album, varied to show different sides of my playing, and tried to keep it positive and uplifting and interesting. So I appreciate that perspective on it. I think, for me, that makes me happy that that's what you're getting from it.
I'm so glad to hear that, man. I really am. And it's been 15 years since your debut solo album, Suspended Animation, and I'm not going to ask you the what took so long question. You're a busy guy, enough said, really. But I did read that when you were in the studio recording it, that like while the engineer was working away, you'd be practicing Dream Theater material for a tour you'd be leaving on and so on. And while some would love to have that to say, I would imagine it also to be a little frustrating. So while obviously nobody wishes for the circumstances that we're in right now, did it create the opportunity for you between March and May this year just to focus on Terminal Velocity in a way you didn't get to with Suspended Animation?
Oh, definitely. Absolutely. You like you described it correctly. With Suspended, I had to do a couple of days at a time, in between tours, and the studio where I was doing it was actually not that close to me. So in this case, Dream Theater has a new headquarters, which is fairly close to where I live. So it was easy for me to get there. And, because all the touring plans had been postponed or canceled, you're absolutely right. I had a big chunk of time to just be able to focus every week for 3 months on getting this album written and recorded and mixed. And I don't usually have that luxury, but with my solo albums, it's hard to find big chunks of time. So, as horrible and devastating as this pandemic has been, the silver lining, I guess, is that it did give me the time to do this. I had planned on doing it anyway, but I just didn't realize I'd have, all the time that I did.
Of course, man. And it's really great to hear that, you and yours are doing well. And it's interesting that you talk about touring there, because I was really I was interested to learn that, during this unusual time that we're living in, that you were actually eager to get this music out. And why I found that interesting is because a lot of artists have been postponing albums due to their limited access to touring right now. And I know you have socially distant crowds and drive-in shows and so on. But with this limited access to touring, do you think it will impact, the release of Terminal Velocity as opposed to the other records across your catalog that you've been able to promote in, say, more traditional ways?
Well, this is a little bit non-traditional, the way that I'm doing it, getting the digital out first and then the record later. But, to me, this is a labor of love. It's something that's fun as far as my solo career and this music. And, I did go back and forth and kind of balance out. And actually, Roy, for those of your listeners who don't know, my publicist, we talked a bunch about doing this the more traditional way, or just getting the music out as quickly as I can. And I to me it felt more important to get the music out, because it's not like with this record, Dream Theater is my main focus in my career, and it's important that things are done, in the way that you're describing, because they could be impacted. But in the case of this guitar instrumental music, it's fun for me to do. I want to share it with people, and hopefully, bring some positive vibes, to the listeners. I don't know. That just felt more important to me than trying to do things in a traditional way as far as the setup of the release, etc.
Well, I think that you've done that exceptionally well, man. And just a slight side question for you, as we're talking about things that aren't or changing our view of what is and isn't traditional. I heard you say recently that within a couple of hours of releasing the Terminal Velocity video, that you saw guitarists that uploaded themselves playing it online, which is interesting, as there is a conversation happening around that, and that raises the question: are YouTubers sort of becoming a new type of guitar hero? What are your thoughts on that, man?
Well, I mean, as that platform gets more and more powerful, you're going to see people, and you do see people using that in a very effective and proactive way to develop their careers. And it's no joke either. It's like, it's not some little method or fad or something. I mean, people are really getting their name out there, and some of these people are really good at it, using it in a way to market themselves and get their music out there. And when you see people that have YouTube channels where a video will get, multiple millions of views, it's an effective way to work. And it's not for everybody, and there's certain people that really know how to do it and are really good at it. And it's definitely going to create it has a whole new level of success for up and coming artists and guitar players. And I think that's great. I mean, the more outlets and the more we use technology, to our advantage, I mean, the more power to you. It doesn't always have to be the traditional way of doing things,
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. And it's kind of cool because, one of the things that was really, really fun to learn was how you kind of gather song titles for instrumental records, whether you hear a phrase or a word. And I know you talked a little bit about Gemini and Oddfather, and I look at song titles like Glassy Eyed Zombie or Snake in My Boot, and I really, really hope those stories are as literal as the images the song titles conjure. But I would imagine that when you write an instrumental album, there is a certain freedom to it that doesn't necessarily come with writing lyrics that tell stories or trying to convey something. So I was wondering that with Terminal Velocity or your instrumental work in general, is there ever a story you're telling non-verbally, or is part of the point in doing these solo records to kind of park any themes, concepts and narratives and just let the music do the talking?
Well, I mean, sometimes there's a story. I talked to Joe Satriani about this, and I know that it's really important for him as he writes instrumental music that he does have a story that he is trying to convey, that he's thinking about beforehand. And that's a wonderful way of doing things. I think with instrumental music, I mean, sometimes I don't know if it's a very developed story, but it's definitely a direction or a mood that I'm trying to convey. And it's pretty clear from one song to the next what that is. Whether it's like something like Temple of Circadia, which is very much in the realm of like epic Dream Theater-ish, more serious metal kind of land, and something like Happy Song, which is a little like looser pop punk. It's all on purpose. But actually having a specific narrative beforehand and saying, I'm going to tell this with the music, I would say that's rare for me with instrumental music. I kind of just do things more instinctually or organically when I'm creating instrumental music. Yeah, if I'm being honest, I think that's more, more realistic. For me to say that, yeah, with this song I was trying to tell this narrative, it probably wouldn't be accurate.
No, that's cool, man. That's why I was curious.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing
Yeah.
that. And you were super kind to you and your team were super kind to share my review for Terminal Velocity, where I referred to your fingers as having been reared on steak and caffeine, which I stand by. But it was it was wonderful to see in the common thread and across your common threads in general a wonderful amount of fans who are eager not just to hear the record but to own it and hold it and put it on display and proudly, present it, which is kind of seldom seen these days. And I was, do you think this is kind of a genre-specific investment from prog and metal fans, or is it an artist-specific investment, or what do you think? Where does this desire to have the hard copy again come from?
Well, that's a whole conversation in itself. I mean, this is something that I went through with my distributor. And, this record is released on my own record label, Sound My Music, and distributed worldwide through the Orchard Music. And in doing so, I have to decide how this is going to come out. Initially, honestly, I was just going to release it digitally. And, when doing some research and talking to the Orchard and my label manager there and other people, we did sort of, I guess, conclude, and it's probably genre-specific and artist-specific, that this type of release, specifically my solo album in this case, is something that people would want to have a physical version of, for sure. And even at one point I was thinking, okay, well, I'll just do LPs because vinyl is something that's become more and more popular, is outselling other formats in a lot of cases, and is also a great artistic presentation of the product. But even talking about that, it was I got a lot of feedback like, wait, you're not going to do a CD? And all of these suppliers around the world were like, we want CDs. So, a company like the Orchard Music represents a lot of different artists of different genres, and they sort of confirmed the fact that, yeah, this is artist specific, this is genre specific. And I have no problem with that. I think it's absolutely wonderful. So as a result, this record is coming out digitally, streaming on LP and on CD, so everybody will get all the formats. So yeah, maybe if I was somebody else, maybe if I was a pop artist, or it might not be the case,
Absolutely, man, absolutely. And I've only got a couple of questions left for you. I know you're tight for time, so thank you so much for entertaining them. And, one of the big deals surrounding the record was obviously your reunion with Mike Portnoy after 10 years, which, congratulations, guys. I mean, that's awesome. And
thank you.
The last time I personally spoke to Mike before a show, he talked to me about how he was the only member of the band not doing a solo that night, and that he didn't feel the need or desire to have that big spotlight moment, and that the songs kind of already had plenty of them for him. And correct me if I'm wrong, because I know that you recorded with Mike, and with Dave it was a little bit different due to everything that's going on. But I feel like that approach kind of carries over here with you guys on a couple of your performances on Terminal Velocity. They can be big, complex, and technically proficient, but some of the best moments are here are when you guys are just like right there in the pocket. Did you guys influence each other's performances on this record, or what was that experience like, man?
Well, I mean, this would kind of describe it. It's a miracle how this turned out the way it did, because I wrote and recorded the entire album before anybody played on it. Right. So I recorded all of the final guitars, and the songs were done, and programmed some drums and played bass, so they were in a format that people could learn. But the recorded guitars weren't going anywhere. I wasn't retracking them. They weren't being moved or tempos changed or anything. So the challenge, and I think it's more of a challenge for a drummer, with Mike in this case, was like, to play to that and have it sound interactive, and have it sound like there is some kind of feeling that we're playing together, even though we weren't, and that there is some sort of ebb and flow of feel and tempo, even though there isn't. So that's Mike's, a testament to Mike's playing. He played to my tracks. I mean, he came up to my studio, and we recorded drums in the studio, but he was playing to tracks that were already recorded. So, I think that the interaction you're hearing is probably due to, the history that we have together. He kind of, like, when he hears what I'm playing, he instinctually sort of knows how to respond and react. And the things that I like that he plays and gravitate to, I'm like, yeah, whatever you did there, that's great, that's awesome. But, the way that Mike recorded it, I mean, he tracked each song maybe, 2 times, 3 the most, and the tracks were built from that. So it's coming very instinctually for him. And that, it's probably due to the history that we've had together, because it seemed very, very natural.
Awesome, man. That's such a cool story. And when you talk about playing together and the history there, one of the questions that comes up a lot in your comment threads is, would you guys ever consider doing a show of this together, whether it was socially distanced or whether we get back to an ideal world, or did you guys ever have that conversation? Would you play this together?
I mean, yeah, I would play it together. I don't think that's going to be the focus once the world gets back to a place where, live performances are possible and touring is comes back. The focus will be with Dream Theater for me.
Of course.
So, but sometime down the road, something's going to come up, whether it's a G3 tour, whether I decide, hey, I have a little bit of time, I'm going to do a little solo run or whatever. Yeah, I would love to play with Mike and Dave live. I think that'd be fantastic.
So cool, man. And my final question for you, John, as we've touched on Dream Theater a couple of times here, obviously a lot of artists have used, this extended time away from the road as an opportunity to relax, but as well as keeping busy writing material. And you'd mentioned recently that that Dream Theater were returning to the studio this fall to begin recording for a new record in late 2021. Is this with a view to write new music from scratch, or do you guys already have a few drafts in the bag?
This would be new music from scratch. Yeah. As you said, we sort of shifted our schedule because touring realistically may not happen until this time next year or later. I mean, everything could change if there's a vaccine. And when it does change, we're not really sure what state things will be in. But, so with all that in mind, yeah, we decided to let's, not that I've been sitting around because I've been super busy
right, yeah.
with all this, but as far as Dream Theater is concerned, let's not sit around and let's, be creative together and make new music, even if it won't come out until 2021 at some point, probably later in the year. Let's get together and do this. So yeah, we're going to do that. We kind of pivoted our schedule, and if things in the world change, then we can make another change. And that's how we're playing it.
Awesome, man. Awesome. John, cool. I know you're a super busy guy. I'm so happy to hear that, you and yours are keeping well. It was awesome hanging out with you once again. And yeah, congratulations on the amazing record. I wish you and the guys nothing but the best for the rest of the year and beyond that, my friend. And yeah, thank you once again for your time today, mate.
Yeah, thank you so much. And thanks for that awesome review. And thanks for your time. And I appreciate the support.
The pleasure is all mine, John. My pleasure. Right. Take it easy, man.
Cool, man. All right, bye-bye.
Bye.